The story begins with the fact that the main character is told to us. One day, his family was killed by monsters and he swore to become an adventurer. Imagine a little boy, with his younger sister, watching the death of his own parents who are devoured by gnolls. It's scary and terrible. That is why he decided that in the future, he would definitely become the one who would protect people and fight for their lives. We are also told about skills, the power, given to weak people, by the gods, to fight monsters. Usually abilities manifest themselves at the age of 12, the adventurer's task is to reach the S rank and fight monsters to protect innocent residents. Heroes are given glory and honor and he wanted to be the same. The boy even praised in church that God will grant him strength. Albeit strange but one with which he could protect everyone, and lo and behold he has a skill. He joyfully runs to the abbot wanting to share his newly acquired ability. That's just the wish was not destined to come true, because the abbot himself tells him, that was such a skill. He will never become an adventurer. A childhood dream has sunk into oblivion after that. We are already watching a grown-up young man who with a backpack full of things goes after a red-haired guy who asks him to move faster because he specifically hired an inept one, so that he could become at least a little useful. His skill was resurrection, which would only work once he was on the verge of death for adventurers. The skill is akin to a weapon and it's completely useless. So also disposable, and even though Chrome didn't become what he wanted, he started working with adventurers. Even though he was just a 6, but even though he has to be an errand boy, he is still proud of doing something for his country. Many people discuss him, including those he serves, the red-haired one. And another guy claiming that even his own sister abandoned the boy because she had more magical potential. A small monster jumps at the red-haired one out of nowhere and Ash, not at a loss, uses the flaming armor skill, raising his sword, which immediately lights up with red flames. Amon with a bandana. Apparently, a comrade throws a hammer using the superpower. All demons are difficult to outwit, but they are nothing before a direct attack or over for their level. This is quite a trifle as shouts to the guy so that he finally deigns to collect the catch from their prey after Chrome tries to hint that if they go deeper not along the specified route, then it will not work to go back. But the stubborn heroes do not listen to him. And the red-haired one asks to shut up at all, clearly not wanting to have anything with the guy general. They move deeper before Chrome notices that someone's drop of saliva is falling from the ceiling. Cannibals. After that, there is a skirmish between them and the cannibals. Ash continues to swing his sword, but this does not bring any fruit, as there are more and more enemies. Apparently, the monsters are too hungry. At some point, the main character himself also decides to slay the cannibals with his little dagger, but his level is too low. Suddenly when the guy turns his head, someone pushes him in the back. And since he was standing near the abyss, he immediately falls, having only managed to grab the ledge with one hand while the grinning swords I was standing over him. The hero taunts him saying that if he dies, nothing bad will happen, and runs away with a friend wishing him luck to use the skill. The tentacles of cannibals immediately run over his legs, dragging him away. Even if he resurrects, he won't last long without help. As soon as he falls, his body is immediately torn apart by cannibals painfully. Was he destined to die like this? The world is fading before my eyes. After that, a window pops up saying that the skill has been successfully activated. He finally manages to wake up, but how will Chrome survive in the lair of monsters? He tries to get up and notices that only bones are left. Ophi's body. No tissues. No skin, no organs, just human remains. The guy can't even talk in a panic. A skill window opens where a new race is indicated for him. I'll lick a soul. That was reborn with evil magic living in the bones of the deceased. Simply put, a walking corpse. The abbot told him that the skill resurrection is very rare, but it is completely useless for an adventurer. Airsolt. He became as useless as he was. This body is akin to a dead one. So what good is it? He wanted to defend his country. He even sacrificed his own safety in order to be betrayed by his comrades. In the end, maybe his sister was right to leave him, saying that it was too dangerous. You can become the best adventurer if you are lucky enough and get a good skill at birth. But then the guy was filled with motivation, thinking that monster is also have evolution. The higher the level, the stronger, and even the appearance changes. Maybe he can also become an S-rank adventurer even if he only looks like a monster now, and even though the leeches are weak, he can still try, and thanks to his appearance, ordinary monsters think that the guy is already dead and all he needs is to explore the environment. Chrome even manages to kill a goblin of a higher level by pretending to be dead, which is why his own has increased from 1 ministry. He is not going to die anymore, especially since evolution will begin from the 5th. He kills a low slug with the same tactic of pretend to be dead and attack. but soon sits down near the wall. Thinking that the body does not need sleep with food, but if Chrome stops sleeping, he will lose his humanity altogether. Also, because of being in the dungeon, he completely lost track of time. I wonder, sister, is Karma even worried about him? The girl usually didn't care. Even if he disappeared for a few days, Chrome decides to stop thinking this way, intending to attack the level 7 Red Eye by pretending to be dead again, and if the Lick watches him a little, he will be able to study his habits. This is how he understands that this is his territory. Therefore he pretends to be dead near the bags so that he thinks that there is food somewhere, which is why he manages to hit the wolf with several blows and then fall down with him into the cliff, where he kills there, which is why he finally raises the level and evolves into the ghoul. Its characteristics have noticeably increased and the maximum level has become 20. He also got the skill regeneration in the end. He had a chance to become a man again, and then the strongest adventurer, the guy, attacks some creature again, but during the fight, he is wounded and realizes that using a sword with the claws of a ghoul is completely inconvenient. So he decides to use hand-to-hand combat. The level gradually rises from the murder, and the body began to demand food at all. And despite his inner contempt, he is not able to give up, even the cape of the dirty monster rat. 3 days later, Chrome continues to raise its level, which reaches 14, and thanks to regeneration. The guy cannot worry about his health during the fight, and fatigue, perhaps because of the racial peculiarities, still does not feel tired. Thanks to his new strength, he raised his new level quite quickly because now the ghoul is stronger than his former self. The guy soon sits down again to reflect on the past. She and her sister used to be really close, but over the past few years, they have lost all contact because of his skill. He never became an adventurer. He had to work as a guide for pennies, which made it impossible to provide for his family at all. But Karma was able to awaken her magic skill and become an adventurer. At one point, she even called him a weakling who clings to a ridiculous childhood and a talentless person after they began to communicate less. So she also looked down on him, but then some unknown sounds are heard in the cave, which immediately attract his attention. It turns out that these are people, and not just people, but also a sister. The dungeon, of course, is located next to the village, but why is it here? He needs to leave as soon as possible. The girl herself is in the team that makes potions. Apparently, they came here for something important because human lives depend on it. But then the group gets distracted. As soon as they hear the sound from the ghoul's claw, they immediately react thinking that it is a monster, and Karma uses a nice arrow. One of the fragments hits him in the shoulder, which makes him unable to escape, and the group discovers him. The group consists of Lena Reline, Derek Dean and his sister. The latter suggests attacking, not unreasonably, but combining attack and defense against a monster attack. The guy needs to distract them somehow and quickly escape, but this cannot be done as Dean and Lena rush at him with great speed, immediately striking. Huge difference in levels immediately becomes very noticeable. Apparently, it will not be possible to avoid a fight. When the guy swings the sword again, using his fire skill, Chrome manages to hit the weapon with a stone, which is why Derek is clearly surprised, giving the main character time to attack, which he does, inflicting a couple of blows with his claws, which turns around and immediately runs away. In fact, they shouldn't chase him as it's not safe, but rely on rushes after him. You need to come up with something quickly, so that she won't be able to deal him too many quick blows, which is why he turns around and sharply grabs her sword. The surprised girl does not even have time to come to her senses as the gun disappears from her hands. That's just the hero forgot about his sister, who uses a hail of ice spears that pierce his legs, causing the body to simply fall limply. Fortunately, he has regeneration, but he still has enough strength only to escape. He only has one chance. Parm, a uses, Anise Trident. If he doesn't run away now, his own sister will kill him. Generation has not completely restored his leg, and attacking it is very stupid. Only one thing comes to mind: the ghoul tries to pronounce at least the girl's name, and this shocks the sister so much that she misses with Atrident, which Dean is very unhappy with. Chrome manages to get up at this time. And while Karmaya is confused, he scares her and then immediately runs away. She begins to think that the monster is too intelligent, and even more like the undead. Something's not right here. The ghoul manages to escape far enough, having definitely decided that he is not ready for meetings with adventurers yet, and it is better for him to deal with monsters first in order to increase his level. Also, he notices to himself that he has not seen his sister walking through the dungeons for a long time. They usually went scouting together, but when she raised her level, she stopped doing it. I wonder if they went the other way, but for greater safety. He decides to go completely the opposite way before he realizes that there is a deeper part in the direction where the detachment is heading or over the bodies of people are and from the bodies of a monster. It is not adapted to the local conditions. It is quickly depleted due to the pressure in the air, and the longer they stay here, the more confident they are signing a death contract for themselves. But if he comes closer then this time, he will definitely be killed. Which is why the guy decides to watch from afar. Meanwhile, the group finds the corpse of some adventurer who was robbed. And even though the comrades warned Carmilla that it is terribly dangerous to go further, she still stands on the fact that it is necessary to continue the path. They are well prepared, but it's really dangerous there. Many monsters like to be where there is a large concentration of mana, and this is in the very depths, especially since anything can happen there at all. What is she risking her life for? And then a level 22 ogre appears in front of them. The group is shocked by such a huge level, but they are clearly ready to challenge the ogre. While the ghoul is watching them from around the corner, realizing that he cannot help because he is just an ordinary monster and will only cause panic. Derek is outraged, saying that they should have gone there at all, but Karma assures that they can cope with him, especially since they are outnumbered. The guy just tries to use his sword again, but the ogre literally knocks him over, and Lena, who uses levitation, he knocks down with one push. Ice spears also don't do much damage to him. They can't even pierce his skin. And although the team may be strong individually, they cannot work together at all. Carmilla comes to the conclusion that she will have to use her strongest spell. If it doesn't work, then they will have a chance to at least escape. However, it has a small range and it won't be difficult to dodge. So her comrades should distract the monster. Dean thinks to run away since he doesn't want Toadie here at all, but Chrome's sister gives an order which makes him bend over and whisper something to another girl before they attack. The ogre, the magician, has a chance to finally use his eyes trident despite the fact that the enemy is not so close. But as soon as she casts the spell, Lena uses levitation and escapes from the fight with Derek. Carr, Maya of course, is at a loss, but manages to deprive the owner. Groove his hands under the guy's screams that they should not have come here at all because her brother died a long time ago. The girl does not even have time to turn around or do anything as the monster becomes enraged and throws Chrome's sister aside, intending to attack her comrades. Abandoned her, and there were no forces left to fight at all. Fortunately, the ghoul himself did not escape. That's why he immediately jumps out from around the corner and rushes with claws at the ogre. When he swings to strike, Chrome attacks the monster with claws, but despite the fact that the latter's arm was torn off, his strength still exceeds many times. The ghoul strikes him even with the ice fragment left behind, but all in vain. We need to come up with another plan because it is very difficult to get close to his blind spot. The hero decides to tire him out because it's still hard to move with one hand, which means he has become much less agile, and attacks don't have much effect. Therefore, the more the guy moves, the faster the monster loses patience, which is why he roars, intending to use his fangs and opening his mouth. It is at this moment that Chrome rushes forward, punching his teeth with his fist. Sacrificing his arm, you can't hit him in the chest and you can't punch his head, but getting into the monster's mouth and injuring him from the inside is easy. The ogre was defeated, falling dead. The level rose to the 18th and regeneration returned the limb. And even though his sister looked down on him, he still can't leave her. So he throws her on his back immediately, going back to the exit along the way. Finding the sword that was with him from the very genin, it's good that closer to the beginning of the dungeon, there were people whom he managed to scare and give karma, immediately running away from the crime scene. The guy is tell the girl who woke up that she was attacked by a ghoul and she lost consciousness. Naturally, she is in shock. So she still has a chrome sword with her somehow, on which, wait for me, is scrawled one day they will definitely meet, but now he needs to continue on his way. The ghoul hunts the cannibals who ate him. Now, it was his turn. Usually monsters of the same rank do not fight with each other and people do not stay in dungeons for a long time, but apparently Chrome has become an exception. He continues to eat the meat of an ogre, thinking that he lacks only 2 levels before the next evolution, and is, if on command, not just a monster appears in front of him, but a real gargoyle of the 21st level. She shouldn't be in this part of the dungeon at all. She has a very good volley of fire, and she is also able to use a sword from which he has to dodge every time. The monster clearly does not want to let the small mages out of sight. Right? So every time it attacks and runs after him, while Chrome himself still manages to overtake the cliff, there is nowhere to go because behind the gargoyle is already about to release its powerful fire. He jumps down, but grabs the ledge. Sothat the monster is the first to be at the bottom of the abyss. And after that, the ghoul rushes after her, hitting her face with his claws and pinning her to the ground. The level has increased to the 20th. The next stage of evolution is available. The hero immediately runs to some, like wanting to find out as soon as possible. will turn into this time and whether he will become more like a person. A new stage has been reached. A mimic with the rank of C, he gained in height and the mask appeared on his face, which did not want Tobe removed in any way. There is also a new skill. Reincarnation. The Mick is an undead imitating people and attacking them. It is said that those who managed to see the essence hidden under his mask did not return alive. He's much more dangerous than a ghoul. Chrome immediately decides to try out his skill, which turns him into a human although with a different appearance in a mask on the temple but a person. Also this skill consumes enough mana. And with his current reserve, he will be able to use it for only 4 hours. It will definitely not work to live in the city, so he should just continue to improve his level and evolve. But then a violent earthquake begins abruptly, which turns into a couple of minutes later, bringing down several stones. What was it? There are also rumors that the remains of a huge monster have been preserved deep in this dungeon. The space created by his evil mana is a dungeon, and now this phenomena occur quite often in places where adventurers have not looked for a long time, which means that there is an overpopulation of monsters. Maybe that's why there was an earthquake and the monsters of rank C began to change their territory. This must be just the beginning. As if by order, another gargoyle appears from some hole, which takes the hero by surprise, immediately using a fire volley in going to attack the mimic, who manages to not only knock her down, but also kill her this time. He coped much faster because not only did he become stronger, but the attacks of these monsters are the same. Moreover, they are not as intelligent as humans and attack indiscriminately. Chrome will finally be able to dive deeper into the dungeon because he has increased his rank and has become more resistant to dark energy, and it seems that gargoyles are no longer his rivals, or not, because they immediately flocked to the cry of a dying colleague. And he has to escape from the scene of the crime. Monsters began to change their habitual habitat, and their level has greatly increased. There is undoubtedly something terrible going on in the dungeon. The hero also destroys monsters, increasing his level. High physical qualities, claws with fangs, endurance skills, and a body, more powerful than any ordinary person. The next evolution is at level 50, and maybe he will finally be a Bleedo. Get out of here. But still, C-rank monsters are almost frequent visitors. Now, previously, only those with rank D and maybe even lower lived here. This is clearly due to overpopulation and began even before the appearance of that ogre. If this goes on, they will be able to get to the surface and start terrorizing the nearest lands. And the only way to stop it all is to defeat the main boss of the dungeon, which is located in the very depths here for some reason. Footsteps begin to be heard, but not have some monster but of a person. Frank Fry appears on level 20 along with Guido Gilad on the 19th and Shelley Schultz on the 18th. The heroes discuss the appearance of monsters with a much higher level, intending to inform not only the guild master but also to defeat the main boss. Chrome decides it's better for him to leave. Frank argues with Guido that their numbers are not so important right now. There won't be a better chance in the near future, while the latter assures him otherwise. They may not be able to cope with ordinary monsters. If there is also overpopulation in the end, the level and appearance of the monsters have changed, which means that they do not even know banal attacks. Frey apparently only cares about materials and their sale, or over their duty is to protect people, and the latter may suffer if they do not stop such a huge number of monsters. Shelley, it turns out, even destroyed his hometown because of this phenomenon, in which he and Chrome are similar, although the latter managed to restore everything. But then Gallardo notices the mimic's pause before immediately attacking with an arrow. Using the hunter's God's Eye skill to spot the target, the heroes decide to attack all together. And the mimic himself has to use his skill. And just at the moment, when they point their swords at the stone, the guy leans out Ophi's seat immediately. Raising his hands up, he lies about being an adventurer and get out because he thought bandits had entered the dungeon. That we do doesn't really trust his nervous voice and appearance. So he gets ready to shoot again, while Frank thinks that the guy doesn't look like an ordinary adventurer at all. It seems that using the skill only made things worse. The man, Frank, seems to be more friendly to him, suspecting that the stranger in front of him is not injured because of the skill, and judging by the worn-out clothes, he has been here for several days. So where is his band? What level does he have in? What has he forgotten here at all? Chrome facts that the more they analyzed each other, the fewer options that he has to answer the questions asked. But then a girl runs up to him who immediately starts asking for his well-being, and saying that one cannot be here alone in any way. It seems that she is not afraid of him at all, and even babbles that only by one look, she can understand that a stranger is a good person. She even offers him to go with their group to get him out of the dungeon if he gets lost, to which the mimic refuses and then runs away. It doesn't matter if he's a criminal or not, you shouldn't run after him. Everyone was wrong. This situation, we do ordered his intentions to the opponent too quickly. And Shelley was too naive and confused. The guy after the archer still agrees to attack the boss. They will never allow repetition of the past experience. They managed to escape far enough. He died about a week ago, turned into a monster. His team left the guy to die, and that girl was the first one who really worried about him after such a long time. Maybe you should go after them after all and check how they would fight the heroes. Finally reach the monster's lair. The king of the gargoyles of the 30th level appears before him. The monster is simply huge and inspires only fear. And there is also a huge eye on his solar plexus, which opens with anesty and vile sound, and the pupil rushes straight at the heroes before. The king growls and his own eyes seem to only flare up with hellfire. It didn't bode well.